So welcome everybody. Thank you all for joining us today. We've got 6 of us today to hopefully have an interesting discussion about meeting others with alopecia. And this is part of our All About Alopecia series that we're going to be showcasing to you throughout September for Alopecia Awareness Month. So we find at the charity that meeting others with alopecia is something that people it is really beneficial to people, basically. I've organised quite a few events now actually at the charity, and it's always quite interesting. You put all these things on for people at events, and one of the biggest things that comes back on feedback is it was just really nice to meet others with alopecia. So it is kind of something that is is really beneficial. And so we've got 5 people here today, 6 including myself, who are all going to talk about the different ways that they have met others with alopecia, and hopefully how useful or beneficial that has been. So I'll quickly introduce everybody and the area, and then ask you all some questions if that's all right. So Elaine, if you wave your hand. Elaine is an Alopecia UK volunteer support group lead. And Maddie, if you raise your hand. Maddie has experienced our Facebook groups and has got some great things to share about those. And Jenny, sorry. So I'm Jen, we've got a Jenny. So Jenny has found a great community of people on Instagram. We've got Sarika, if you want to give everyone a wave, Sarika. And Sarika has attended quite a few different events, alopecia events with the charity. And then we've got Lucy, and Lucy is a trustee and also the treasurer of Alopecia UK, and she's got lots to share around friendships from. Lucy's actually met somebody from before the time of alopecia, so Lucy's a bit like me. We've had alopecia since way before the charity started, and a friendship that was started when you were 11 and has stayed with you right through. So we've got a lot of different experiences that we can all chat about. And so I think first, Elaine, I'd like to go to you if that's okay. And just ask you a little bit about, you're obviously a support group lead, but before that, what was your own experiences of meeting others with alopecia?
When I first discovered that I had alopecia, I was desperate to meet other people with it as well. I didn't know anyone that had alopecia. So I went to a meeting and I met some really lovely ladies, and you know, immediately I felt, oh, I've come to the right place. And they were really sweet and really nice. And the only thing I found initially was at that very first meeting, there weren't many people there for some reason, and everyone had a wig on, and I choose not to wear a wig. And I really wanted to meet other people with a wig. As the meeting went on, more people came with without wigs, and I did an event and I met a lot of people with alopecia. And I didn't know anyone, and going to that first meeting, going to that event, I just felt at home immediately. Everyone was so friendly, so welcoming. I felt I knew everyone, you know, and it just kept me coming back, really.
Yeah. And so how did you end up becoming a support group lead then?
Well, I'd been to the group a few times and got so much from going. And meeting other people, and I went to a couple of the other meetings as well, and the lady who was running it had said that unfortunately she would need to step down. She'd been running it for quite some time, and the meeting had got quite small by that stage, and I just thought, this is so important, that the benefit that I've had just from going along a few times is beyond any measure, and this is really important. So I said, I'll do it. I don't care what you have to do in order just to keep the meeting running, because people need this. So yeah, and everyone said, oh, thank you, well done. So yeah, so I took it on, and yes, been running it a few years now, and you know, really enjoying it. And you know, it's transformative. just seeing people come to a first meeting really nervous, in tears, not sure what to do, really struggled, and to leave that first meeting smiling, laughing, and saying, I should have come here ages ago. Why did I leave it so long? And that's really nice. You know, everyone that comes to the meeting gets something out of it, and you know, it's life changing. It really is life changing. Yeah.
So what are the meetings like? Kind of how is it run?
Well, we have different things. They're on a monthly basis, and we do different things. Quite often it's just a get together and a chat, and we'll sort of, I often like to ask people just to introduce themselves so that any newcomers are immediately welcomed, so they know who everyone is, what kind of alopecia they have. So if they have a specific sort of alopecia, they know who else in the group that they can talk to about that. Because, you know, I have alopecia universalis, but I don't know about some of the other alopecias from a personal point of view, so they can share amongst themselves their experience. We have different speakers that come along with demonstrating wigs and makeup. We have therapy sessions talking about anxiety and well-being and that kind of thing. And we go out for meals. We do all sorts of activities. And there's a really warm, friendly bunch. And you know, some people come for a while, some people come a few times, some people have come for years. And every time we have new people, they're always really warmly welcomed. And I think that's something that's really important. I always encourage all my, you know, regular group members, they always welcome the newcomer and chat to them and make time for them, because I think that's really key, that they feel comfortable straight away. And make sure that any queries that they've got, we help them with those. And you know, we end up having a lot of laughs. I know when we've had people coming to demonstrate things and they've said this is the funnest group of people we've ever done a demonstration with, because everyone's laughing, everyone's sharing their stories. You know, and it's a really safe place to be. You know, people have taken their wig off in front of the group that they wouldn't do in front of their family members, you know. And it's just gentle and safe, and no one has to do anything they don't want to do. You know, but it's, you know, it's yeah, it's amazing. And it's that group, that kind of group support, that fellowship of people together who have all experienced the same thing, maybe in slightly different ways, but we all, that bottom line of what we suffer with, everyone recognizes it, so we don't have to explain anything. It's just known. And yeah, it's kind of magic, I think.
Yeah, and I imagine that's going to be a theme of what a lot of people will say, actually. And so, and Maddie, if we go to you then, so you're still fairly new to alopecia, but when did you start with alopecia, and how did you find the Facebook group?
Yeah, so I actually only got diagnosed beginning of February, and then it got to March, I completely lost my hair. You know, lost my eyelashes. I've got the same as Elaine. I've got AU as well. So it got to the point that I kind of really did feel alone. I don't actually know anyone else who has got alopecia. I know people who've had it in the past, but then it's always come back, but never someone who's actually progressed and, you know, may permanently have this. And I was just constantly feeling down. And my mum knows a couple of people who were part of the alopecia forum on Facebook. And she said, you know, maybe join that, give that a go, see how you feel. And yeah, it's quite similar. It's great because, you know, people sharing what wigs they have, people are sharing their kind of experiences, and everyone kind of uplifts each other. You know, some days I might have a bad day and I might jump onto the Facebook group and be like, I'm having a bit of a rubbish day today. And everyone's just like, you know, you've got this. They're also supportive. They give you tips and advice on, yeah, like ways you can do your makeup as well, what products better for them, eyelashes, and just even with like the medication, you know, giving you advice on what works. You know, it's, for example, I've just started taking steroid tablets and it's caused me a little bit of heartburn. So the other ladies are like, oh, maybe this would help, or take this as well along with it. And yeah, it's just been great. Honestly, it's changed my life, and now I actually brought my confidence up so much that I was actually able to do a post about it on Facebook, and I like kind of came out to my family and friends, you know, which I don't think I probably would have done if it weren't for the Facebook group. But it's so empowering, men, female and children, like seeing and knowing that we're all kind of going through the same thing and that we can all kind of support each other. So
but no, so I think that's it. And so within the Facebook group as well, again, you sort of still, like Elaine saying, got that fellowship, and everyone kind of is, who gets it, and the sharing of experiences as well. I think with you being new to it, you can go into a group like our Facebook group, and there's lots of other people in there who've already been down that road, and tried those treatments or had those experiences, and kind of say, well, this is what worked for me, or this is what didn't work for me, and that in itself can just be really, really useful, I think, can't it? And especially like, and so because so at Alopecia UK we've got 4 different Facebook groups at the moment, and one is kind of our main group, which is all for support and things, and then there's another one that's specifically just around products and services, which is where, when you're talking about for eyebrow tips and things like that, which I think there's a natural end progression over to Jenny probably with Instagram, because that's a brilliant place, isn't it, for loads of tips around wigs and makeup. And how did you get into Instagram then? Yeah. What's your story, Jenny?
So I also was just diagnosed with alopecia in February as well. I'm just alopecia areata, and I was just scrolling kind of on Instagram one day down like an alopecia hashtag. I hadn't even realised that people would really kind of post anything about their alopecia, or like run pages solely kind of dedicated kind of like alopecia support and telling their stories. But I just kind of stumbled across a couple of girls who were posting on dedicated pages and decided to start up one myself. So I kind of run it more like a diary, where I just kind of spiel a whole lot of nonsense, whatever I'm kind of feeling that day, if I'm having a down day, or if I've got a new wig. I post quite a lot of like wig reviews and things. Yeah, so that's kind of how I stumbled into it, and yeah, it's just been great. Like, made so many friends through it, and yeah, just having other people to talk to who know, because like realistically, like the people that you know in real life, like friends and family who haven't suffered from any form of like hair loss or alopecia, like as much as they want to understand, like they don't, and they never will. So it's just great to have those people who've been through the same thing and really like do understand and can help you out with tips and tricks and how to stick down the front of your wig and all that kind of thing that no one else knows unless you have to do it yourself. So yeah.
So I think, and Instagram, it's a real there's a real community on there now, I think, isn't there? And there's and yeah, I'm not particularly Instagram savvy, so so it's good to, we had a little chat earlier, didn't we? And you know, I didn't even know actually that group chats were a thing.
It's great. I always say kind of my DMs are always open, so I'm always getting messages from girls who have said that they found my page and found it so helpful, and they'll maybe ask me a specific question about a wig they've seen me wearing. Or I had a really, really lovely message from a dad actually, and he said that his daughter has just been diagnosed with alopecia, and finding my account has really helped her. So he went on and had a look at my account, and he said that it's great kind of from a parent's perspective, learning how it can make you feel, so that he kind of knew how his daughter was feeling and how to kind of best support her, which I thought was really good, because I hadn't even thought that I would be kind of helping friends and family of people with alopecia as well. So yeah, it's just a really kind of nice community where everyone's kind of chatting and helping each other out.
And I think representative of the alopecia community as a whole, I would say, I think the more that people, when somebody is first, I think, diagnosed with alopecia, it can often feel like quite a lonely kind of place to be. And I know when the world was a different place when I first started with alopecia, and there wasn't really any internet and things. So it's just going to make me sound really old, but I've had alopecia for a long time. So I think the internet has been a big game changer. And I think one of the biggest things has been people being able to come together and meet each other. So Instagram's obviously a place for that. And then a lot of the things that we do through the charity, it's all about facilitating those spaces where people can kind of come together. And I do feel like the alopecia community, there's a lot of people, because they know what it's like, they want to help other people, and in whatever platform that's on. I think that that's what's a really nice thing about our community, and the way that everyone helps and supports each other and lifts each other up as well. So Sarika, did your journey first start by attending a support group? Did you go to am I right?
Yeah, my first, I think it was Birmingham support group. I got diagnosed, and to be honest, my doctor wasn't very helpful at all, and I didn't, very similar to some of the stories that you've already heard, is that I didn't really know anybody who'd had alopecia. And in the Black community, especially in our culture, hair is a really big thing, and there's a lot of emphasis on, they say your hair is your beauty, and I didn't have any support, and I thought, I don't know where to go to get support. So I just, like everybody else, typed in alopecia. I think another thing that was quite difficult is that my alopecia is very different to some of the other types of alopecia, because it's a scarring type of alopecia that I have, but it's called lichen planopilaris, and it's more linked to an autoimmune disorder. So I didn't really know anything about it, and I didn't feel like I could ask anybody. So I typed in alopecia on the internet and found Alopecia UK, and I emailed Marie, our group leader, and she said, yeah, no problem, come along. And I was so nervous, but I went, and I still got my wig and everything else on. But I have to say, just walking in there was a game changer, life changing for me, because I didn't feel, like I said, nobody understood exactly how I felt. And I was in a bit of a depression, a bit of a downward spiral at the time. And when I left there on that Saturday, I just felt like a totally different person. It was just nice to meet people who, it's like they understood everything that you were feeling, all your feelings, and because they've been through it, they understood exactly how I was feeling. So, but yeah, that was my first meeting, and I've been going ever since. We have our meetings every 2 months, and then obviously from that came a lot of other events through Alopecia UK. The first one, I was diagnosed in, I think it was October 2016. I can't remember if it was 2016 or 2017, the Birmingham group. I think it was it 2017? Yeah, so I think it was September 2017. I remember joining my support group in the October, and then I met a really close friend through that group, and we still speak to each other now. And then we both decided we were going to go to the first big weekend. It's like a really big event in the Alopecia UK calendar. And basically, it's a weekend where there's lots of different speakers, there's lots of different stalls, there's lots of different products and services, and everybody comes together in a different location in the UK. And my first one was Birmingham, which was perfect for me because that's where I'm from. And I remember meeting up with my friends that I'd just met through going to the support group. We both started on the same day, and we met out at the train station and we walked in together, and it was just brilliant. I remember thinking, do I wear a wig? Don't I wear a wig? But I wore my wig because I thought, oh, I'm not quite ready to take it off yet. So I wore my wig, and when I got there, I kind of felt really comfortable with everything that was going on. I met a lot of people. Everybody was very welcoming. We all have badges, you know, everybody's names. Another chance for you to meet people is just trying to think, our other main event is the Alton Towers. That's the other trip as well. So Alton Towers, every year we have a trip to Alton Towers, and that's along the same sort of situation, except we kind of take over the whole of Alton Towers wearing our blue t-shirts, and it's a real big fundraising and awareness mainly of alopecia really, and it's just really nice to see so many people all together. And again, it just puts a lot of people at ease, and it's not just adults, it's for the young children as well, more so for them, and it's just really nice. And I think Jen's already said that it's very different now with the internet and having access to groups and just everything there at your fingertips. It's just really nice, and I can't imagine how people coped before we had the internet. So,
well, it was
yeah.
very difficult, which we'll move on to in a sec. But I think there's a couple of things there just to comment on. So the badges at the big weekend event is an event that's very much gradually we've grown and learned. It's grown and learned, and we've learned from it over the years. And yeah, so the badges, I think we have a first timer badge, or I think there's one that's like a bit nervous and things like that, so people can kind of, you know that someone's a first timer and to make an effort to go and speak to them and things. And I think so Sarika, I think you even ended up volunteering. I think we did the last big weekend in Bristol last year, and I think you even volunteered in the socialite role that we have, didn't we? So that's a role where we make sure that we've got people who go out and chat to everybody and welcome them to the event and things. So so that progression, it's interesting as well. I think the progression from, that those stages where you can feel quite, before you've gone to that very first support group, feeling quite nervous, and your confidence then gone from the support groups, then your confidence grew even more from the events, and now you're even on Instagram as well, aren't you? And you post, supportive stuff. So I think as everyone's confidence grows, everyone then wants to help and put that bit back in to the community, so that we all just keep going, which I think is a really nice thing. But yeah, you've commented there on, so Alton Towers, yes, a good plug there for Alton Towers, thank you. It's all a bit of a funny year this year. We're really disappointed that all these events aren't happening, but we're very much hopeful that they'll all be back next year. So, but yeah, so now you've mentioned there about the difficulties before the internet, and I think me and Lucy can probably relate to life before Alopecia UK, and also before the internet, really. So when we were younger, there was another organisation, wasn't there, called Hairline International, which isn't around anymore, unfortunately. But Lucy, you tell us your story about how you met Amy, who we'll see on other videos. But
yes, I'm glad you said the name, because I couldn't actually remember. It was so long ago, I couldn't remember what they were called. But yes, pre the internet days. So I'm from Devon, which is a very remote place anyway. And so I was 10 when I first got alopecia, and my parents signed up to, I think it was a kind of forum similar thing.
Yeah, it was. She used to send out information. So because there wasn't like an online forum, but you could send in and say that you wanted like a pen pal, I think. So
okay. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah. So my parents signed up to that because, there was pretty much nothing at all back then. None of these support groups. Like nothing really at all. And my parents then got in touch with Amy's parents, who also lived down in Devon. And we all met up. And yeah, it was just really lovely. It was like everybody said, so nice to just meet someone else in the same boat as you. Amy and I are both the same age. So to kind of meet someone at that young age, and go through all the kind of puberty and joining school and all those kind of really important life points that are, difficult for a kid in any instance, but especially when you've got alopecia, to have someone that's going through those key stages that you are, that you can, share experiences with. And when you're at school, kids can be quite unkind sometimes, so to have someone else going through that experience with you is really important. And like Jenny said, you've got your friends and family who do the absolute best they can to try and support you, and obviously they just don't know what it is like, really. So it was really, really important to have someone that just understood, basically. So Amy and I have been friends ever since. We're still really good friends now, and we've I think our first volunteering was at one of the Alton Towers events. We decided, when Alopecia UK was set up, we kind of heard about it, and I said to Amy, "Oh look, they've got this Alton Towers event. Should we go and help them out?" And yeah, we've been roped into pretty much everything ever since, I'd say. But it's lovely, especially when you kind of do go to the Alton Towers events, because like Sarika was saying, you see all the kind of young kids there, and it's just so lovely to see them all just playing together, and it's like they just forget everything else, and they just have that one thing in common. And it's really nice to see, you know, the same kind of friendships that Amy and I have, you know, starting to blossom in other kids.
It is. It's lovely to see that, and we know of a few kind of kids who've formed those friendships by meeting each other at the events and things like that, and then they're always like, you know, they chatter away to each other every day and things now. So it is really nice, and I think so overall, I think it you know, that's been a big part of your life and your journey with alopecia, to have that person there that you could talk to about it, especially in a time when, you know, you couldn't access all these things on the internet. And yeah.
And we have had quite different hair journeys as well. I mean, Amy lost all of her hair and then it grew back and then it all fell out again, whereas I've just had kind of alopecia areata throughout. So, you know, I have the patches, they grow back and then they fall out. So, you know, we do have differences, but the underlying feelings are still the same, I suppose.
I think sometimes, no matter the type of hair loss or you know, there's always that kind of connection there with anybody who's lost hair, that you can kind of relate to what it is that they're going through. So for me, I started with this when I was 11, and I did access Hairline International, and I think I got some contacts, but there was just a girl that I spoke to maybe on emails sort of in the later years of my teens. But as I didn't actually meet her till I was about 21. So for the first 10 years, I didn't meet anybody else with alopecia, which wasn't like a brilliant, you know, it was quite tough at times, alopecia. And so I think that's why for me now, I think I'm a huge advocate for ensuring that all of the stuff is in place for everybody, and that all of these things are available and continue to grow and be available to people. And probably a huge driving factor in a lot of the stuff that we've done at the charity, just because you don't want anybody to go through what you've gone, or have that time when it is quite a lonely time. So yeah, I mean, opening up for discussion then. So what do you think are the key things? Some of you have said a few things there, like you know, the fellowship, finding other people who understand. You know, what do you think is the most important thing for you in meeting people with alopecia? And if you want to kind of raise your hands or anything to see who wants to go first, Elaine.
Something I think is really important about the charity as well is that we're open for people of all ages, you know, from the little kids right up to people in their 70s, 80s, 90s. You know, everyone is welcome, and I think that's something that we do stuff for everyone, and I think that's important, whether you're new, you've just been diagnosed with alopecia, or you've had it a long time, or whatever. It doesn't really matter. And I think whatever age you are as well, everyone's welcome, and there's something for everyone, which I think is really important.
And what about everyone else? Do you think there's the biggest thing for you that's important when it comes to meeting other people with alopecia, or what's the biggest thing that you've got from meeting others with alopecia?
I think a major thing with me was knowing where to buy wigs and what wigs to buy. I think no one else buys wigs, so just having friends who can kind of give you that advice and steer you in the right direction, and kind of tell you the things you should maybe look out for when buying a wig, and all the little hints and tips that other people who've been wearing wigs for however long can kind of pass down to you. I think that's been extremely helpful for me. Not for my bank account, but
no, well, that's the thing. I took a call today, actually. I was speaking to a mum, a girl who's just her hair's just falling out today, and she was that was one of the questions, you know, like, where do we even start with wigs? You know, if you've just started alopecia, it's a completely new thing, isn't it? It's kind of like something you've probably never even thought about before in your life, and it's like, there are so many out there, and it took me years to find. You know, I would have loved to have had it available to me, what's available now, to kind of save myself all these photos of terrible wigs when I was younger. I think wigs have progressed a lot since then as well. But yeah, like, I think that is a really key thing, I think, is being able to find out about the products and services that are going to help you to just feel like you again, and help with that. So yeah, that's definitely a big one. Sarika, what about you? You've got your hand up.
I think I was just going to say that for me it was just speaking to people, because whether it's on the internet, whether it's on a Facebook group, or whether it's going to a support group meeting, it's actually finding people who have been through what you've been through and just being able to communicate with them in some way. I think that is the biggest thing in terms of being able to become accepting of alopecia, and then mapping your own route really to acceptance, and it helps you to develop your own character and your own personality and your own inner strength really, but it helps you to do it in your own time. And I think that for me has been the biggest thing, in that there is no right time in when you should feel comfortable to take your wig off, or there is no right time. It's just having somebody to talk to about it. It kind of enables you then to forge your own sort of journey really. And I think that's what's helped me the most, is going to those events and speaking to those people, and I just wish there was a way that we could make sure that everybody, like you said, had the same access to that, which is, if I hadn't have typed that into the internet saying alopecia, and Alopecia UK hadn't have popped up, then I would never have known that you existed. So it's like you say, making sure that everybody has that opportunity to access the charity, and because it is so valuable, I think.
Which is a big part of what we do as well, in just trying to get the word out there. And all the media requests that come in, it's always like, well, can you just put a link onto our website so people know where to go, and getting the word out to GPs and first point of contact and things like that, to kind of just say, well, there's so many people who always say, I just wish that my GP had told me about you so that I could have just found, there's loads of information on the website, but also going and being able to connect with people. So it's all kind of getting the word out there and things. But Lucy, go on.
The other thing I was just going to say was, it's also, I think quite a lot in the Facebook groups I've seen, it's nice to just have somewhere to vent sometimes. Vent when people, even not necessarily they're meaning to be rude or horrible, but sometimes people can just say very insensitive things, and it's nice to have a space that you can just vent and say, someone said this to me, it was really irritating, and just have a lot of people come back and say, yeah, I've had the exact same thing. And it just makes you feel a bit more calm sometimes, to know that you're not the only person that someone said something like, oh, it's only your hair, don't worry about it. And and actually sometimes then it turns into a bit of a joke about what's the kind of stupidest thing someone said to you and stuff like that. So I think just having a space to vent and and get upset sometimes if you want to get upset, and people completely understand.
I think, as you were saying all of that, I was thinking that's the line that came into head when people are like, oh, it's all right, it's only your hair, don't worry about it. Like, and so only when you have the conversation with other people with alopecia do they totally get it. And I think that's one of the things, it's a group of people who just get it. And there is that perception out there of, oh, it's only your hair, it's not a big deal, but actually it's a massive deal. It has a massive impact on us. It is, maybe not life-threatening, but life-changing, that classic kind of line. And it takes a while to adjust. And so I think, if there's things that can kind of help us on that journey to adjust and try and make it a bit easier, then Has anyone else got anything that they think is kind of what the benefits of meeting other people, or Maddie?
Yeah, so like quite similar to what Lucy said, you do get days where you're just like, I just don't know what I'm going to do now. Like, I'm just so fed up with it. And I found, especially with the Facebook pages, especially obviously given lockdown, so going through what I'm going through now, when we don't have the support groups in place, and where we're not doing like the fun days out, or doing the charity events, knowing that. And now I know as well, we've got like, Instagrams as well. You could reach out to people there. I never particularly thought that would be a place that I kind of would look for it. But knowing, that we do have like we have like the online forums, and even so, I've noticed that a couple of people are posting on the actual Facebook groups like, okay, why don't we just do our own little Zoom thing? Is anyone based in Kent, or is anyone in Wales? Let's just set something up. And just knowing that you're really, really not alone. And it's not like a competition about what alopecia you have, but to know that, you know, you're all kind of feeling the same emotions and that you're entitled to feel those emotions, especially. I've just found that it's just been incredible knowing that you have so much support around you but not having it actually physically around you, which makes such a massive difference. So
definitely. And I think it is a bit of a funny year this year, and so we don't have the support groups on at the moment, or we've not got events on, but well, we hope to bring them back, but it's definitely pushing now towards, you know, the development of more digital stuff. So I think the digital meetings and things, there's bits and pieces of that happening. I think you've done some Zoom meetings, haven't you, Elaine?
Yeah, we have just carried on. We've had Zoom meetings all the months really, apart from the early ones, but yeah, and we're even doing, I've got a speaker coming to a Zoom meeting next month. So yeah, we've just carried on, and we've just done whoever's turned up really, but it's been really nice, and that's helped people hugely because we've had quite a few people who've been having to isolate, so that's made a big difference for them.
We even heard, because on one of the support group lead team meetings, we even heard, didn't we, from one of the group leads who said the digital meetings were actually more accessible, it was easier for someone rather than travelling in. They still were delivering it to their local area, but because their area was so rural, it was still quite a journey to get to the meetings, and actually so some people are more inclined to go to the digital than they are the face-to-face. So I think it's been an interesting year. I think digital is definitely going to be sticking around even when we do bring back face-to-face stuff. To be honest, with Zoom this year, it's kind of, why have we not been doing this all along? It's quite nice to be able to meet and chat with people. But yeah, I'm trying to think, what else, is there anything else that we feel is important to cover when it comes to meeting other people with alopecia, how helpful it can be? I've got some notes on this screen, which is why I'm looking at
I found I lost my hair and my eyebrows and eyelashes quite quickly, and I found it really hard accepting myself, and I looked in the mirror and I did not recognize myself. I thought, that's just not me, and I don't know how to reach me. It was really, very emotional and really frightening. I just felt I'd lost myself, and I just really struggled with accepting myself, accepting my alopecia, and just being with other people, either at a meeting or events or a fundraiser that I did early on, just being with other people with alopecia. I just thought, actually, do you know what? If these people are getting on and it's not an issue for them, they're just getting on like normal, then so can I. And I think that really, it flicked a switch for me. And I just thought, actually, I've got no reason. I can get on and I can learn to get some acceptance around this. And you know, because they're all happy, they're all having a laugh. And I can get there, and it really was the thing that galvanized me, that people are accepting me, whether I've got alopecia or not. It doesn't make any difference. You know, I am accepted, and I then need to accept myself. That was for me the big turning point. Just me, if I hadn't met those people, I know I would still be struggling with acceptance around it.
Yeah, so I think that as you were starting to talk there, I was just thinking of sometimes there's a bit of a role modeling. Like, so for example, I know at some of our events, like so quite often, you know, kids group meetings and things like that, quite often we'll have volunteers there who are also kind of, and they're people who've got alopecia and they're quite comfortable and confident, and sometimes the kids will see that. And I know, like in the past, we've had kids leave meetings going, oh, that's the best day of my life. And I can just imagine, like, if I'd have been 11 years old or 12 years old when I had no hair, and I was just like, felt so different. If I'd have been in a room where there was other kids with alopecia and there was some adults there with alopecia, I'd have been like, whoa, wow, this is. And I think it helps to by meeting other people, it helps to almost normalize it as well, because I think sometimes with alopecia it can feel like something that's like, oh god, what is this, and it's a bit different, until you know, if you just go through it on your own and not seeing all the stuff, but when you start to see more of it, when you see more about it on Instagram, on the Facebook groups, more chatter about it, more opinions, more people's experiences, I think it helps to normalize it a little bit and just make it that bit easier. Like, it's not just me, actually, there's loads of people out there, because there are a lot of people out there with alopecia, and some will be kind of, you know, doing it on the quiet, and others will be kind of quite out there about it, and there's a lot of people who are just in between, and it just, I think it helps to have that almost role modeling, and seeing other people with it helps to make you think, oh yeah. So I know for example, there's been there was one kid who went to a group meeting, and I think she'd seen just some of the volunteers just laughing and joking together, and I think she realised that, like, oh, actually you can just, you know, you can still just be yourself, and it's about finding yourself again, I guess, isn't it? But yeah, I think one thing for me, meeting other people at the Alton Towers event, there's one that always stuck with me, that one girl said after that, and she was like, I could just be me, I could just be myself. And as much as we can struggle to get used to this new me, it is a me, you know, having alopecia and stuff. And I think that I know for myself, I more often than not wear wigs, do a head wear. I don't often go out and about with nothing on my head. Sometimes, especially in my local area, sometimes that's because I feel uncomfortable, whereas in cities I will. But also mostly it's because I got a really cold head. But just that I even for myself, I've had this for a long time. I've done a lot of the stuff that I've done with the charity, and there's still like this atmosphere, like going to Alton Towers, for example, when everybody is there without the you know, I think last time we don't take over the whole park. I know Sue said that, but there's still lots of other people there in the general public, and that day is all about creating awareness in the park amongst that general public. But I think last time we were there was over 300 of us. We all wear these blue t-shirts, and there's this just feeling of support. So there's a lot of people with alopecia, but also friends and family supporting by wearing the blue t-shirts. And there's this feeling of support. And if I walk into Alton Towers and I'm walking around on my own on that day with nothing on my head, I don't really think anything of it. If I was to go into Alton Towers on just a normal day with nothing on my head, I'd be a bit kind of self-conscious and think, oh, what are people thinking? And it's knowing that awareness is there. And I think that yeah, sometimes there's an element with meeting other people with alopecia, you can just relax, and you don't need to worry about what are they thinking, or do I need to explain it. With other people with alopecia, you know that they already get it before you've even spoken to anything. If you know that person's got alopecia, you know that they know, you know, they get it. They know what's going on. So, but yeah, so no, that's interesting. Lucy?
I have a fun point that I quite like about meeting up with Amy, is that we can just wear each other's wigs and headwear, which is, you know, like if you ever go out with your friend, you can just try each other's tops on and stuff, but you can do the same with the wig. So when I went out to visit her once in London, we went out for a night out, and yeah, she ended up wearing my kind of cherry curly bob, and I wore her longish dark hair, which is like something I would never ever buy, but it was just quite fun to just wear it out for a night and see what it was like.
Yeah, I think you do at the last event, actually. I think you both were trying my wig on as well, I seem to remember. So maybe a habit of Lucy and Amy there of stealing everyone's wigs. But yeah, so no, I think that it's really insightful, and I think overall, I think what we wanted to get across today is that, you know, reach out and meet people and chat to people. There's a lot to be gained from doing so. I think you know, the practical elements, products and services, finding practical information about wigs and things like that. There's the emotional bit, you know, you can vent and people are going to be there and they're going to understand. It can help to adjust, as Sarika was saying, about helping to adjust to this kind of this new self. And there's just other people out there, and there's just a lot of people that they're going to get it, they're going to understand. And I think that those are probably some of the key things of meeting others with alopecia. Would you all agree? Yeah, cool. In which case, I guess we will finish there. And I just want to say a big thank you to all of you for taking part. Hopefully this has been really insightful for everybody watching, and hopefully everyone's getting involved with Alopecia UK's 15th birthday and our 15 for 15 throughout September. So thank you very much, everybody, and we'll say bye.